evolved, since this is a county committee that was created by the county, that perhaps the county could provide some limited resources to that group to perform those actions. It would be my recommendation, if the board's inclined to do that through the Public Works Department, mainly because there are a lot of road issues that are involved with this group. Public access to federally owned roads is one of the major focuses of this group, and so that's why the recommendation. I would like to ask Ms. Roberts and perhaps the sheriff to address the issue.
Go ahead.
I'm never at a loss for words. I'm Laura Roberts, and currently the note taker for the Lassen County Natural Resources Coordination Council. First, I'd like to commend you for 3 years ago almost, you asserted your position on coordination in a resolution. Later, the group, Mr. Wasik was tapped on the shoulder to help a group get formed in order to do the work for you and bring information to you about the needs for coordination on that broad array of topics. So the group did form. They're a very cohesive and supportive group, doing very, very well. And currently you have 2 city council members on board, Nick McBride and Rena Calaberry. You have 2 board of supervisor members, Bob and Larry. You have Don Hanson and Mark Schaefer, Willis Dow, and Sheriff Dean Rowden is the chairperson of the council. They meet on a regular basis and consider a multitude of topics that could impact the citizens of Lassen County. That really is the foundation of coordination, is looking for things in the management of federal and state lands that can impact the customs, the culture, the social viability, the economics of the citizenry of Lassen County. So it's a broad task that this council has. And they've worked really hard. They formed a foundation and a structure, and I think throughout the process they wanted to revisit their structure, and the 1-800 how are we doing once a year, and throughout the last year with the roll up your sleeves kind of work that they've been doing, roads has been their primary topic, but it's not the only topic, and it potentially is a much bigger task for the council. In the process of checking, the 1-800 how are we doing, and throughout the past year, it's been very evident that the council needs the support. And I can only speak from my heart. I've been involved in forming collaborations for many, many years. One of the true flaws of binding them together and keeping them sustained over a long period of time is providing the support. I call it the glue. They got to have some kind of glue to hold themselves together, because everybody that's usually on one of those kind of organizations, they already have a job, maybe more than one job, and they're volunteering in their role on the coordination of, for the public good. And if you don't have someone behind the scenes that is providing the glue on a couple of different levels, one, just administrative support, minutes, legwork, post office, whatever, that kind of stuff. And also to support the facilitation of that. And I think it's become very evident, and maybe Sheriff can speak to that also. It's been very evident that this is a huge, huge task that you've taken on, and that this council is now ready to perform for you and is working very diligently on it. They have enlisted some experts on the road issues, and they're working with Larry Millar, the public works directors in the 5-county region, on the road issues. You don't want to arrive in the woods someday and there's going to be a sign that says closed. We live here, we like to drive on the roads and enjoy the outdoors. That's why we live here. And I think it's very important to, in collaboration, and to understand that in the tradition of the past, on multiple levels, whether it's when you go to the doctor The doctor does things to you and for you. Not often do they ask you your opinion. And in collaborations and in government service, the same tradition, that's the culture of government. We do things to people and for people, but not often do we engage them way upstream to ask, how is this going to work for you downstream? How should we formulate the things that we do? So that's the mission of the Coordination Council, is to get as upstream as possible with the agencies that manage your federal and state lands in Lassen County. So then you become a part of what's coming downstream to your citizenry. You become an agent that's working with the organizations, and they no longer have that role of doing things to you and for you. So I think it's important to have that kind of support. They need a land use plan. We've been compiling existing policies and procedures, ready to work it into some kind of a land management document, but it needs the support of an expert to do that. And there may be gaps in it where you do have to trigger the CEQA process or whatever, but they need help in doing that. That's maybe not the area of expertise of anyone on that. So they need help in doing that. They need help in doing, preparing minutes and doing the legwork that keeps that, things functioning and keeps the meetings productive and on target and cohesive. But I think where another place where we need to consider support is, instead of being behind the curve and finding out that the sage grouse needs a letter next week, we should have been upstream 3 years ago with that, and watching and moving towards and becoming sort of one with that whole idea. And I mean, are you going to arrive at Eagle Lake someday and there's going to be no fishing sign or whatever? You need to be upstream of all those things so that you know what's coming down the pipeline. And it's going to take a staff person at some level to be able to build the relationships that are critical. And it sounds easy, like, to go forth and do good things, join hands and sing Kumbaya, but it's hard work. It's really hard work to form those collaborations and to nurture them and keep them healthy and moving into a healthy direction. And it's going to be new for the Forest Service, for BLM, and other entities that manage these lands for you. The philosophy of becoming, getting way upstream when they even think about those things, before they're posting these SOPA documents where you can go in and see what their plan of projects are. Who thought it up way upstream above that? Getting up there and understanding that is critical. In order to do that, it's going to take a person. Not the person taking the minutes, but a person who's in tune with natural resources. And natural resources in the biggest sense of the word. It's people, it's wildlife, it's agriculture, livestock, it's a multitude of things to monitor and to stay on top of until that you know what's coming down the pipeline. So that's the task that the council is charged with, and they need support to do that. So it just needs to continue to work with you to figure out how to get that kind of support. And I think it's really become evident to me in watching, especially this past year, and working on roads with the public works directors. It's a phenomenal task. There's a phenomenal set of expertise in some of the citizenry that are helping right now in that, but how that relationship is built with the Forest Service so that they begin to plan with you instead of just thinking, no, we know what's best for you and this is what we're going to do. Yeah, come to the table and give us your ideas, but thank you very much. Now we're going to do things right for you. So anyway, I could rattle on for a long time. So that's the gist of it. They need support in administrative work, just providing the glue to keep the group together and productive. They need support in, the council needs someone that can go out and help build these relationships eventually, sooner than later, so that they can become ahead of the curve, because the council is a phenomenal group of people under the leadership of our sheriff and members of the board, city council, and citizens. We have a great group of people that are really trying to stay on top of things. So, and I think they're doing a great job, but they need support in land use plan development, administrative support, and in an executive position that can go out as your agent and build the relationships and get as upstream as possible on your behalf. So anyway.
Thanks, Laura. I just wanted to hang by in case anybody has any questions, but, yeah, it's been a pleasure, you know, working with you for the last 3 or 2.5 years or whatever, and I agree with everything that you've said. The council is a very, very important component, you know, to the success recreational, you know, of the county. I mean, it's been, and I think Supervisor Powell could attest to that. It's it gets us all together, us being, you know, the federal agencies, BLM, Forest Service on a monthly basis, and that it's been a good start, and it is a good start. But as you said, we do need the glue to hold it together and to provide the, you know, the horsepower, manpower, the time, you know, on a constant level to do all the communication and reaching out, because as you said, you know, we all have, we're spread thin with other tasks, and we need a dedicated person to do that. And you've done an admirable, more than admirable job of it, you know. It's been, you can only imagine, you know, and we're where we're at now, and have had the successes, you know, greatly in part, you know, to your efforts, because you've been the glue, you know, so far, you know. But, so anyway, before you go, does any board members have any questions for Laura? Okay. Dean?
Well, I just wanted to thank Laura. Obviously, like Supervisor Wasik said, she's been doing all that work for us on a volunteer basis, and we've made a lot of progress. I mean, last night we had the acting forest supervisor from the Lassen there. Plumas National Forest has been attending regularly, and so has Ken Cullen from BLM. We've really made a transition. I think it's working really well now. They're coming to us, they're talking about projects that may be coming down the pike and so on. And the acting forest supervisor from the Lassen was real engaged with us. Road issues, but there's lots of other issues we're talking about. So I think it's well worth the investment. I think it's appropriate to transfer that responsibility into, obviously I can't speak for Maury and Galen. I know it's just one more thing they're going to have to do, but I think it is.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
I think it is appropriate for that person to come from that office, just because it does have a strong planning tie. But I wanted to come up and just thank Laura for the work she's done.
Thank you. I just sort of think it's like phase 3, you know, phase 1 was your idea of doing it, phase 2 was getting the infrastructure in place, and now phase 3 is stirring in the components that are going to keep it and sustain it for you for the long haul.
Your analogy of it too is so accurate, because we basically have two choices. Okay? One, we could, you know, put the blindfolders on and, like you said, you know, show up in the forest or at the lake to see what our fate has been from not being involved, and leave it up to other agencies to determine and dictate the recreational opportunities, which ones are going to stay with, and which ones are going to be denied us, or we could get involved. But to get involved at a more meaningful level, we need this support. And I personally think it makes perfect sense for the Public Works Department with the roads issue. But that will be as effective just by appointing Public Works isn't going to solve the issue. The Public Works Department has to be engaged and be at these meetings and be there to converse with the BLM and the Forest Service, and to have meaningful meetings. Just to say, okay, the Public Works is in charge of this, that's not going to cut it. It needs to be a huge effort on their part. And if they do a good job, we'll also owe them a great deal of gratitude.
Are they able to ask the planning department to help with the development of the land use plan?
That's something
Is that all
that you didn't
in the
touch on. Yeah, you touched on a little bit, but I'm going to go to Jim in a sec here. But that is the other very important component that we get a plan together. And I know, you know, Richard is dedicated to making sure that comes to fruition. Let me go to Jim.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Laura too for her work. And this issue of how we're going to staff or support this effort isn't new today. When this came forth about 3 years ago, it was all articulated as to the fact that we're going to need to have these kind of resources put into the effort. And so it's not something new, but I'm glad to see that the group is still interested in taking it forward. But the key, I think, that we got to have, and this is where Modoc County, because they had Sean Curtis, has been functioning in a similar kind of capacity for that county, is the person who is tasked, whether it's in public works or in planning or whatever group, has to be committed and want to do it. To just assign it to a department and hope that it happens, history will tell you that that isn't how it works out. The reason why it's successful to date with the folks is because people like Laura has wanted to do that, be a volunteer and is taking care of that. So I would hope that, county administration would look at the departments and somebody who can work across a number of department boundaries, because it's not just one department, as you've already pointed out. I think you have to have somebody who's capable, and that's where Mr. Curtis is very successful up in Modoc County, is that he, kind of basically operates transcending
He's
the
a
various...
department of one.
But he transcends the department silos, so whatever he needs at whatever given time, he's able to reach in and access and bring that to the table. So it takes a kind of a personality who's capable of doing that. So hopefully you can identify the right person within the organization. It doesn't matter which one of the silos you get involved in, that person is going to want to do it and want to be able to put the extra effort into making it happen. Because that's the only way you're going to see true results from the effort put forth by the folks that have been on not only the council but the committee that meets with them, which is a wide variety of private sector folks as well. So, I think it's something that we need to do, and I think whatever financial resources we need to make available to them needs to be done.
Maybe we can keep working on it and discussing the options, and because it's done differently in different places, and I have copies of documentation from Modoc County and how they do it, and I have leads and pieces of data from other counties on how they do it, so.
But the key is that whoever you wind up tasking is going to want to do it. It's not something that they take on in a begrudging fashion, because if they do, you're not going to have the kind of results you're looking for.
It's about relationship building, so you gotta have somebody who's, good at people things, because it comes down to people. So you gotta have, you do have to have the passion for it, and it can work, and, I can only, in my experience, tell you about a group of doctors that get together every week over in Humboldt County. They have for years. They're pediatric specialists, and they are in intensive care with newborn babies that are really, really tiny, born too early. They come together every week to talk about their patients and the resources for their patients. And they meet at a breakfast hour, and they collaborate on what's best for these children that are in that nursery. And it's been working for years and being very successful, but they have the passion to have good outcome for their babies. And there are people here, they're on the council, and there are others that are in the wing here that have the passion for creating a system that will sustain itself with the support of the county. And how you do that can be designed. You don't have to pick the Modoc method or the Siskiyou method or the Fremont, Wyoming method. You can design a Lassen method. It's just that without the glue, and the glue being administrative assistant support and administrative support, and the person that builds those relationships with you and gets you as upstream as possible on what's going to impact you, we'll be struggling and be behind the curve
I would
continuing.
agree with that. I think we should create the Lassen method. But the key to those other efforts is because they have a person who is committed to the outcome and can get others committed to join them in that outcome, rather than having it just assigned to them with hopes that maybe they'll do it.
You can't just, that can't be the devil in the details in the fine print of your job descriptions, and it can't be that, because that won't work that way. It's a great opportunity, and this council is going to continue to meet and do their work, and how we design the support for them, I think, is an ongoing project that we can maybe meet frequently with your staff and work out something and bring it back.
I think it's important where we go to from here is sometime next month, like Richard, like I think, it doesn't have to be, beginning of, but even if it's toward the end of April, we should have a meaningful meeting and see where we're at with creating the document you described about the culture and our blueprint, if you will, that we need for the coordination council too.
Yeah.
And that's been the big
We need that
monumental
because,
task,
yeah,
so-
without that,
Yeah.
the agencies don't know what to be consistent with.
So we should, over the next month, I think it would be great if get with Richard and
Okay.
the new department, and if we don't start, we're never gonna get to the finish of that. We need to start, right? So if it's okay with the rest of the board, I think that should be agendized. Sometime in April, we'll get a progress report and see what we've accomplished.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, all right, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. My point of recommending that we assign their responsibility to one department is more of a managerial accountability issue as far as having one focal point of being responsible for providing administrative support to the council. Understanding that whoever that is going to have to work with a lot of different county resources to get the job accomplished. But from a managerial standpoint, I'd like to be able to have one department that's the focus and the responsible party for going to the meeting at 6:30 on Monday night every month. So that was my only point of recommending that approach, and also that we've got to budget it somewhere in some department, and I think that Public Works is a natural one to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there is, I believe.
20 grand
Yeah.
to get it started, yeah.
And this is an opportune time to do this as we go into next year's budget, evaluate what we need.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Is there any other comment from the public on this matter? Okay, the action request is to assign the Department of Public Works staff to the Coordination Council and report back at a future date as to fiscal needs.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. Alrighty. We'll move on to our 10 o'clock time certain. Item D3 is the proclamation honoring Jacqueline Music.
You have two, there's another one.
And Sandra Mock from the District Attorney's Office on their retirement from Lassen County.
They're out in the hall, both of them. They're out.
You're missing your party.
There was one in the hall.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the proclamation. So we'll quickly take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Aye. How are you? Hi, how are you? Okay, hi, congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a proclamation in honor of Jackie Music on her retirement from Lassen County Department of Behavioral Health. Whereas Jackie Music was hired as the patient's right advocate for the Lassen County Mental Health Department, which later became the Behavioral Health Department on August 18, 2003, and served until her retirement on March 28, 2014. Whereas Jackie Music as patients' right advocate was to ensure that clients received the types and full scope of mental health services to which they were entitled. In this capacity, Jackie always listened patiently and without bias to each individual's concern about their treatment services. Then, with respect and patience, she would carefully explain to them how to navigate the system, what they could do to help themselves, or what she could do to help them. And though she was often required to defend the department's position to the client, she did so with such compassion and clarity. In all these years, only one person has ever expressed dissatisfaction with Jackie's assistance. Jackie also demonstrated great dedication to helping clients achieve maximum wellness and recovery through the Lassen Aurora Network. She spent many hours training peer counselors there and worked with them to develop a training manual and other training resources that guide them in the appropriate role of peer counselor. Jackie kept herself abreast of the latest science and treatment information in the field of behavioral health and could always be counted on to share this knowledge with treatment providers in the community. She participated in both the children's and adult systems of care, where she conscientiously represented the client's perspective, looking out for their needs and desires, and whereas Jackie Music is best known by her peers for her positive attitude and zest for life. You could see it in her stride, not only when she's walking, but when she's literally running around Susanville on her regular evening jobs. She greets everyone with a smile. With her calm and quiet demeanor, she is found to be approachable and ready to listen. Knowing that in addition to spending time with her beloved grandchildren, Jackie intends to continue her work with NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, makes it possible for the rest of us to accept her retirement. We wish her the very best life has to offer in her retirement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Lassen that Jackie Music be commended for nearly 11 years of service to the citizens of Lassen County, and that the Board of Supervisors wishes her well for many years to come. The foregoing proclamation was adopted at a regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors, County of Lassen, State of California, held on the 18th day of March 2014 at Susanville, California. Thank you, Jackie.
I would just like to thank everyone and the Board of Supervisors for this opportunity to be able to serve the county and the clients. I know I got much more out of my job than I really ever anticipated, and it's been a wonderful time to end my career. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I just want to add that it has been a pleasure working with Jackie. A lot of times you bring advocates in and they think their job is to fight with the department to make sure that they demand services for clients, and Jackie never had that attitude. She came in and asked for the services, and then she helped the department provide the services that they needed to be providing, and kept those great relationships that really have benefited clients. And we've been very lucky to have Jackie on these years. Thank you, Jackie, and I look forward to seeing you on the nanny side.
Yeah.
If I could add, before Jackie did all these wonderful things for the county, she worked for many, many years with the senior program and was the backbone of Lassen Senior Services back in the good old days. And I know the seniors, they really missed her when she left that program, but I knew when she came to the county that we had a really outstanding work. Thank you for all you did, even for the seniors.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I have to work at 1:15. No, he said I had to go.